recording now.
And I'm going to put my slides up. Okay, so what happens, I call it rewiring beliefs. So we rewire our limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs. And what happens when we are in our head is that we are consuming our thoughts. So we believe every single thought, every single limiting thought or thought that is maybe not serving us, we believe it to be true. I want all of you to unmute one by one and share the topmost limiting thought that comes to your mind very frequently. I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved enough, I'm not safe, I will fail, any of those.
Who wants to start?
Yeah, anybody, keep it.
I think going into this new role, into my new position, it's a little bit of an imposter syndrome I'm kind of feeling going into this. Like, do I deserve this? Am I good enough? Are people going to take me serious? Like, that's the headspace I'm in.
Thanks for sharing, Candice. Anyone else?
I also struggle with not feeling good enough, not feeling like I know enough.
For me, one of the issues I often have is, will I be able to fit enough while keeping enough of myself and my own differentiator? So finding that balance between fitting and still being myself.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
I feel like I've been not in a full-time job for a while. So can I learn quick enough to sort of adapt and to be where everyone else is, and that you know, I'm worthy of what I want and what I want to do and how I want to help.
Yeah.
I think I sometimes think also, am I strong enough? Like emotionally strong enough, you know, when you're vulnerable or in a sensitive place. Emotional intelligence is talked about a lot in the workplace, but we don't give people enough credit for showing up in difficult situations.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, so what happens when we get these thoughts? We tend to go down the rabbit hole, right? So one thought after the other, we start believing them to be true, and we start indulging in those thoughts, and before we know it, we are spiraling. And there's a connection, obviously, between thoughts and feelings. There's a lot of debate on which one comes first. Of course, feelings come first, but still, when you have these thoughts and you're indulging in these thoughts, you are generating even more negative feelings. And then you store these feelings all over your body. And then before you know it, there's pain and there's saboteurs and there's trauma that is, stored in there. So the first thing that we need to do is to be aware of what we are doing. And how you can do that, of course, awareness is the key to any change, is to realize, in Eckhart Tolle's words, that you are not your thoughts. You are the one that sees them. And I'm going to tell you how I built it into my framework. But this is the most important thing: when we are dissociated from that thought, when you can actually see it coming in and you are aware that, oh, okay, I'm thinking that I'm not good enough. I'm thinking I'm not emotionally intelligent enough. I can't go back into the workforce, or I don't have that. You see it, you acknowledge it, you don't dismiss it or snub it or deny it, but you know that that's not all of you. That's a part of you. And there's a lot of awareness and there's a lot of power in that. So how do we do that? The framework I use, it's a 4-step framework to rewire limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs. We catch, we challenge, we change, and we act. I'll take you through it one by one, and then we can have a discussion. So the first, okay, it's fine. It was supposed to be animated, but it's not. Okay. So the first step is to catch. So in this phase, as you become aware, as you realize that you're not your thoughts, it's a practice you can have. In fact, you can, challenge yourself to do it over the next week or two. List down the most frequently visited, nagging, negative thoughts that come in your mind. So when you start listing down bullet points, one line, one phrase: I am not loved enough. I don't have enough. I can't can't do this, I will fail, any of those. And when you make like a long laundry list, you review it after a week or two, then you can start drawing patterns from it. So what are these thoughts telling me? What are the kind of, pesky, nagging thoughts that keep coming up again and again? I have some examples here. For instance, I've always worked in a traditional 9-to-5 job. Don't think I have what it takes to get out of this structure. So some people, when they start quitting the corporate world and the 9-to-5, they struggle with self-discipline, motivation, how to, find the discipline that is required to run your own business. And then once you have drawn those patterns after catching your negative thoughts, then you challenge them. Then you try to, what we say, get out of your amygdala in your brain and come to your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that is, responsible for reasoning and for rationale. You take the thought to the court. Is it true? Is it coming from a place of fear, or is it a fact? And how can you prove that? Is by looking at evidence. So you become a lawyer, you take it to the court, you look for hardcore evidence. Okay, you tell yourself, no, that's not true. I have actually launched my, in this example we're looking at, my photography side hustle only a year ago. I upskilled, I've been taking courses, I've branded myself, I have put myself out there, I'm meeting people, I've taken, paid projects, I've completed stuff and, actually done stuff alongside my day job. So no, my thought is not really true. So that's the challenge bit. I'll pause here before I move on. Any questions on this so far? Because, sometimes what happens is we don't even get to the challenge phase because we're not aware and we are drowning in the spiral and going down the rabbit hole, and our body takes over and we panic. And our breathing is shallow and I can't do this, I won't be able to do this, what do I do? And panic, that's it. So you don't even get to that phase where you're coming to the part of your brain which is actually challenging. And then what you do is you change and you act. So in the change bit, you're going to ask yourself, what did you learn when you challenged the thought? Meaning, when you challenged it, that is it true or not? What did you learn? Because that would tell you what your limiting belief needs to hear to feel reassured and empowered. So when we fear something, some of our needs are not met, right? So when we feel that we are not loved enough, our need for connection and love and validation is not met. That's why we are feeling that way. So when you ask this question, you are really asking, what does this limiting belief needs to hear to feel reassured and empowered? And you give it that. So you give that to yourself. So if we go by the same example, that this person is feeling that they are not cut out to be an entrepreneur, they can only do 9-to-5 because that's all what they've done. When they challenge, they realize, no, I actually take initiative. I scratch my itch, I lead with curiosity. So that's the change that needs to happen to be able to make this limiting belief feel reassured. That yes, no, I did a side hustle, I took on extra projects, and if I did this once, I can do it again. Does anyone here have their own personal examples of change and challenge? A thought came to you, you challenged it, you changed it because you told yourself, no, I actually did that.
I think every time I look at my resume and something comes up, if I'm looking at a job description and during this transition, and I look at my resume and I say, I've done a lot of stuff. So, and I think that gives me the power over that limiting belief thought of maybe I'm not ready. And I think the example you just used in terms of that transition, the 9-to-5, for me, the transition is like, well, I've worked part-time. What do I have to let go of in order to transition to full-time work? Because the responsibilities won't change. So it's more about readjusting my schedule and knowing that I have done it in the past and I have the support system to do that. And am I ready to jump in with both feet? And I am, but I do hold myself back because it's scary.
It is. It's always scary until you act,
do it,
which is the
last
part Exactly, until you do it. So it's the last part of the framework, which is to act. And acting and going out and doing it is so important because I don't know, I think in one of the Excel sheets I saw that you guys were also discussing Atomic Habits from James Clear. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Read it if you haven't. So in Atomic Habits, he talks about taking the step and doing it. And until you do something and you do it enough time, you repeat the behavior enough times, it doesn't become a habit. And once it becomes a habit, through those habits that are you're doing it over and over again and you're disciplined, you can actually change your identity. You always thought that you're not a morning person and I can't get up in the morning and I'm a night owl. And you start, I'm a prime example of that. Because of life reasons, I had to wake up in the morning to drop my daughter to school once I got divorced. And I was never a morning person. And now I wake up at 5 a.m. It's been 2 years. I can't believe myself, like, who am I, but it happens, the first month is difficult, second month it's, it's not that easy. And then you realize that I can do it and you can completely change your identity. So in this last step, what you do is you commit to what behavior, what action will you take consistently to ensure that this new behavior is repeated enough times to become a habit. So in this example we're looking at, let's say this person is saying, I will proactively break things down one step at a time and focus on what's right ahead of me. And how does this make sense if we go back? What they started with, this big looming sort of thought that, oh, I can't do entrepreneurship. I've only worked in traditional 9 to 5. I need discipline. I need structure. Then they actually broke it down when they challenged it. And they looked at all these amazing things they've already done, which showed them all the attributes that they're employing. And now from that, what they're learning is breaking things down, taking it slow, one step at a time, actually helps me move forward, actually helps me take initiative, be curious, and that's what I'm going to do. And so it's like, breaking a big chunk of problem and a big thing that is too it's unsolvable, impossible, into smaller chunks that seem doable. And this is how, it's the method to the madness of beliefs. And we can take other beliefs as examples now and perhaps, discuss those using the same framework. Would anybody like to share, volunteer, share examples of your thoughts that come to your mind that cripple you?
I liked how you simplified it in 4 steps. So the process is not overwhelming in itself, which often can be a stop in even trying to do something when you're overwhelmed by all the things you have to do. So I like that in your process.
Thank you. Yeah. And sometimes, clients come and they're so overwhelmed that first you have to tap into their body and do some embodiment work to break down the emotions and the overwhelm. Because when they're breathing from here and they're not even able in a, let's say, mind frame to challenge it. Because to get to your prefrontal cortex, you need to at least be centered in how you're feeling, right? So the overwhelm is intense, and that's where you start. And you can start yourself also that way. If you feel, I'm not able to challenge, I'm not able to get to step 2, nothing is coming to my mind, I'm drawing a blank, just do a quiet grounding meditation, breathe deeply, 5 minutes, feel your body, do a body scan, then get to the challenge phase. Let's take another example. What's a pesky, nagging thought which you hate, which comes very often? Anyone?
I have one that I feel like I am just becoming aware of. I feel like I often am afraid that people don't like me. And it's not true. A lot of people do like me, but I have a hard time reaching out to people. And I was like writing this down because I was thinking about, I have a tendency to isolate myself, which is something I'm working on right now. And I'm trying to challenge that and say, like, no, people like want to be connected to me. Like, I have things to offer, like, and yeah.
So we have 7 minutes. Would you like to use your example as an example we work now with using the framework? Are you open to that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I have a question first. Do you want it still recorded or should I stop the recording?
I'm not sure.
I'll pause it and then we see what we do after.